webinar on part of the Vocational Education and Training Skills Week 2018. The webinar today, this morning, is about our project Apprent, refining higher education apprenticeship with enterprises in Europe. My name is Carme Arroyo. I'm the Executive Secretary of eucen, and myself with my colleague Francesca Uras, who is the project officer of our association, will present you our work. So, Apprent is an Erasmus Plus project. The important thing really is the action, which is connected to vet business partnership on apprenticeship and work-based learning. It started last year in October, and it will finish next year in October as well. We have a partnership of 16 organizations. You will see in the left column, it's apart from eucen, which is an association, then we have 7 universities from 7 different countries. And on the right column, you will see that there are 7 chambers of commerce or associations of industry and companies, businesses from the same countries. Why? This is because the idea was that in parts of the project, partners will work as a team at national level, and that's why we chose 1 university and 1 chamber of commerce or association from each of the countries that that form this project. The tandem with eucen, the other partner that makes a tandem with us, with eucen, is the Fundació Bosch i Gimpera. They are a research-oriented organization. Maybe somebody in the audience knows them, and they, with us, because we are also located in Barcelona, will be doing some of the activities together. For example, we started with doing work package 1 together, and then we will do some of the dissemination and exploitation activities together in Barcelona. But why did we actually decide to do this project, and how it came into our heads? So the idea is that we all know that there is a social challenge connected to unemployment in many countries in Europe and probably in the whole world. And there are like 3 kind of factors. One is lack of expertise from young people that makes them not so interesting for recruiting them into industry and businesses. Then on the other side, there is the low transference of knowledge and practice between companies and higher education institutions. And then there is this lack of accreditation, proper accreditation, that justifies companies to increase salaries and to recruit more staff, basically. So with all these pieces of puzzle on the table, and also taking into consideration that the relationship between higher education institutions and businesses or enterprises or industry are vital, are very, very important for the growth of our economy in Europe. We designed this project with the intention to give tools to institutions and to private sector to work together, and also give tools to the policymakers to enable this the creation of programs that suit both parts, higher education and also industry and businesses. The next slide. Well, we plan the work in a way that it's like we have started with a national teamwork, because they have actually, first of all, review what is the situation about dual programs in their country, what are the laws, how the Ministry of Education and the regional authorities perceive the creation of programs of apprenticeship for higher education and graduates. And they made at the beginning of the project, each of the partners, if each of the countries partner in this project, they did a study. What is the situation now, and how the authorities are dealing with these kind of programs in our country. Then we also, it's not in this graph, but and Francesca will talk more about it. We selected, or we made a definition of higher education apprenticeship, because we realized, after looking at the background reports from these 7 countries, that each country is in a very different moment in the implementation of apprenticeship programs at higher education level. And we realized that it was not going to be easy to make a definition that suits absolutely everybody in Europe. So we decided to make a flexible definition. But as I said, Francesca will explain more about it. With this definition in our hands, we made a collection of case studies, and we are in the moment now that we are making a comparison, a transversal comparison of all the results obtained. I will talk later on about the collection of case studies as well. And right now, in this moment, the different partners, the partner teams, are doing their national learning workshop. Then, in terms of transfer of knowledge, we've actually been we have actually asked our partners to develop forum sessions at national level to exchange impressions and to discuss with higher education institutions and with industry and businesses which are the needs and which are the training needs that the industry in the region, basically, because it's more logic to approach the region first, what are the needs they have and which areas are not covered by higher education institutions already, and which are the basic academic skills required at higher education level to give further training and more specialized training to already existing staff in industry. So it's been, we've actually, in the project, we've developed this biz-to-biz or two-side dialogue between industry, businesses, and the higher education institutions that participate in the project. The next bullet that you can see here is recognition of qualifications. And what we are now trying to do, because what we've realized and we knew from the beginning when we designed the project was that training high education staff and small medium and enterprises supervisors and mentors was a key point for success, because at the moment maybe the supervisors and the two parts of the training of dual studies, maybe they don't understand too well why the other part wants to have learning outcomes, why the other part wants to have so much practical approach. And I think that we thought that training the supervisors and mentors of higher education institutions and industry and businesses would actually make them understand the other side and exchange and be prepared to give a better supervision to the students that enter these programs. And we will develop a model of training, a prototype course to train mentors and supervisors. And we will also develop other tools such as an agreement for to protect the three parts in this dual system, which we think that it's going to be quite innovative because it will focus on the needs and the needs and the more specific protection of the students, the industry, and also the higher education institutions participating in these programs. And finally, we will create a policy level pack, which will have a set of recommendations, and we will create inside this pack something that we could call advocacy pack or ambassador pack, because we hope that the people that are trained, the people that work with us in the project, will be encouraged to also explain to other people how the project has worked and why it's important and useful to develop apprenticeship programs at higher education level. And now I pass the word to my colleague, Francesca.
Yes, hello, can you hear me? Yes? Okay. In this slide, you can see very well the timeline of the project, so how the project has flown so far and how it will proceed. If you're familiar with the project structure, the project is organized in work packages. So as Carmen mentioned, we started with the work at national level, by which each national pair, education institution on one side and Chamber of Commerce or Association of SMEs on the other, collected relevant information on the state of implementation of apprenticeship schemes at national level. And all this information was the base to meet in the peer learning event organized in the beginning of the project, where all the partners met and shared their findings. The main results of this first project step were the agreement on a definition of higher education apprenticeship, and I will come back to this in a while, and a SWOT analysis of university business collaboration. The following phase consisted in the collection of relevant case studies illustrating positive experiences of apprenticeship collaborations. And in the setting up of focused learning groups within each country, involving key stakeholders such as representatives of SMEs or academic staff, learners, depending on the resources and possibilities of the partners. Following this, we met, all the partners met in Brest at the University of Western Brittany to learn about the positive example of the higher education apprenticeship offered in France. This is a model which is working very well since many years already. So the idea was really for all the partners to learn from this experience and refine this model to apply it at national level with their own audience and stakeholders. And at the end of this process, which is currently ongoing, we will have this generic prototype training model that will be translated in the partners' languages, and that will be awfully useful for external parties to adopt. Finally, we will have the policy dimension work. We will have a draft policy paper prepared, and we will have an open consultation on this draft. So we will welcome feedback and contributions from external parties. And apart from this final policy paper, as Carmen mentioned, we will produce an advocacy pack addressed to the 4 main target groups of the project. So higher education institutions, SMEs, learners, and policymakers. So this is a little bit how the project is progressing. Yes, we mentioned this common definition of higher education apprenticeship because, as we said, at the beginning of the project, it was quite evident that the partners themselves did not have a common understanding of higher education apprenticeship and of what kind of features higher education apprenticeship should have compared to other schemes. So we decided that it was kind of necessary to proceed with the following project phases to agree, to discuss and agree upon a common definition. And we came out with a definition that we decided to keep flexible in order to include the variety of situations existing in the different countries participating in the project. A definition that is based on 6 main characteristics. And we said that in order to qualify as higher education apprenticeship, a scheme should at least present 4 out of the 6 features. So the first feature is that the learning should alternate between a workplace and an educational institution. The second feature is that there should be a very strong tutoring and mentoring program involved, both at the workplace and at the higher education institution. So both at the workplace and at the university, there should be a person dedicated to follow and to assist the apprentice in the development of his skills and competencies. This is a very important aspect, in fact, and this is why we are developing the generic prototype material. The third feature is that the program must be part of either a formal or a continuing education and training program. The fourth feature is that the learners at the end of the apprenticeship, the completion of the program should acquire some form of qualification, of certification. The fifth feature is that there should be a kind of contract, a formal agreement between the parties participating in the apprenticeship scheme. So the learner, the higher education institution, and the enterprise. And finally, this is also very important and distinguishes apprenticeship from other forms of learning, is that apprentices should be should receive a remuneration for their work. So this is our definition. It is available on our website if you want to consult it and share it. And this really was the foundation of our following work. I would like to mention the SWOT analysis. This was another of the first outputs and outcomes of our work. We started to work on the SWOT analysis already during the peer learning event, and the analysis was finalized soon afterwards. It's a SWOT analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of university business cooperation, but with a special focus on the specific needs and the features of small and medium enterprises, and obviously having a look at our ultimate goal, which is promoting and improving apprenticeship schemes. You can find the SWOT analysis at this link. So on Apprent website under tools, where you find all the other project outputs as well. I won't go too much in detail, but I would like to just mention some of the key conclusions of this SWOT analysis we did. So yes, and these are conclusions that can benefit in general not only cooperation between university and business, but also bring about some important changes in the path to improving or introducing apprenticeship schemes. So, well, first of all, it was evident from the discussion held between enterprises and education institutions that the transfer of knowledge is to be seen as a two-way process. So there's a transfer of knowledge happening from the university to the business sector, but there's also a transfer of knowledge happening from the business sector to university. And we should take into account that this is a bilateral process. When trying to identify the major problems existing, preventing the dialogue and effective dialogue between university and business, all the partners agreed on the fact that one of the major problems is the lack of trust existing between the two worlds, that of business and that of education, and the fact that these are words that use very different languages. So all the stakeholders involved really need to make an effort to first of all to become aware of this, and then to overcome this initial barrier. We learned and we all agree that it is important for higher education institutions to change their attitude. Higher education institutions tend sometimes to stay close and to pose themselves a barrier towards SMEs. So that the SMEs sometimes really find that universities are not very much approachable. And we all agree that maybe identifying a specific professional, a trained professional within universities that can take care of a permanent collaboration with SMEs could be key. Because this wouldn't be a sort of ad hoc appointment. It would be someone continuously working on establishing links with SMEs, and knowing what SMEs need and how collaboration can be better implemented. There's another important aspect that we discussed, and it is the fact that clustering of SMEs could really be helpful in overcoming the limits that SMEs unfortunately have because of the small size. SMEs have limits in terms of resources, they have limits in terms of competencies compared to large enterprises, and clustering can really become a solution for them. It would be important to really give tools to enterprises to prepare themselves in a long-term perspective, and initiating sustainable regional structures could be really helpful to establish and support university business collaboration. These are only some of the conclusions of the important points of reflections that we made. But I really invite you to go through the full SWOT analysis available on the website to gather more inputs. And I think I will give the floor back to Carmen now. She will tell you a bit more about the collection of case studies. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I'm back. I wanted to explain a little bit about the case studies that we collected. We've collected 33 case studies from 9 different countries. They are in contact with 9 different sectors, so it's kind of spread sampling. All the cases fulfill the higher education apprenticeship definition of Apprent, and 73% of the cases fulfill the 6 characteristics that we've determined as part of the definition. So we have the impression that we've made a good selection of cases showing what is the panorama of higher education apprenticeship in Europe. In general, the authors of these case studies all find that their programs have good potential for transferability and standardization. And because the different countries have different level of implementation of their legislation, all are at different points and are addressing the topic of dual education, dual system, or apprenticeship in a different way. But all of them agree that it would be convenient to have, or it would be interesting to have training focused on supervisors and mentors. If we look at the highlights of these case studies, the very bottom, the main conclusions, because we could actually explain a lot of points that have been highlighted, but if we try to pick up the more repeated highlights in all of these case studies, we can say that there is a number of opportunities, very clear opportunities, because everybody sees that higher education apprenticeship is a source of knowledge and transfer, an opportunity to develop this university business collaboration that we all know that is so important, and it would be so useful for our Europe and our economy. They also see higher education apprenticeship as a chance to give a first job opportunity to young people who are about to graduate, and an excellent opportunity for other employees who want to carry on studying and to develop their career. It's obvious that it's a bridge between university and industry to make them understand each other and to maybe first of all, to stop being scared of each other, to make sure that they understand that they can talk, that everybody in both sides have common interests, that things go well, and students are trained properly and um, fulfill the needs of the industry. So I think that this kind of program will give them the opportunity to realize that they are not enemies, they are friends that need to collaborate, both industry and universities. And also, it has been spotted in several of the case studies, many of the case studies, that the small and micro companies take this opportunity of apprenticeship as a recruiting process. They do not have resources to recruit new staff, and these apprenticeship programs give them the opportunity to know these students, to see if they are good enough, and then they are able to integrate these students into their small companies, uh, knowing how they work and if they are performing the way they want their employees to perform. So there are many opportunities and many benefits about higher education apprenticeship. But of course, there are a number of challenges, and it's got to do with regulation. It's a need that the regulations need to be reviewed and probably adapted and changed. There is a challenge to match the needs of industry and the needs of academics that want to make sure that graduates acquire a number of learning outcomes. So there is a need for dialogue and understanding, so everybody is happy. There is a challenge also for small companies and micro companies because dedication to an apprentice has to be high if you want this student to succeed. And there is a need of training the mentors. So these small companies don't have the time or the resources to do this, and this is a clear challenge for them. But also there is a challenge for students because they need to work and they need to also concentrate in the part that they have to deliver at the university. There is a lot of work to do during the months or the days per week that they go to university. So it's very demanding, and we all the case studies show that students need to be prepared because it's a double effort for them, although the rewards at the end might be actually worth it. This is in terms of the case studies, and now I would like to talk to you a little bit about the generic prototype course for mentors and supervisors that we are developing at the moment, and we are actually kind of testing how our ideas match with our stakeholders in these 7 countries that we are working. So when the last time that the partnership of Apprent met, we discussed how we were going to tackle this course and what was needed. And it was quite clear that the course for mentors had to be focusing or had to be thought focusing into the student's learning process. So mentors, both at academic level, maybe it's not so difficult, but at small and medium enterprises and industry, they also need to understand that there is a student learning process they need to understand this process, understand why it's important, and realize that the student is in the center of this process and in the center of these apprenticeship programs. So there is this small graph. I hope you can see the writing, but very briefly I'll explain. So there is this at the recruitment level. It's important to see, identify if there is any prior learning there that the student already knows that is going to be useful for this program, apprenticeship program, and then match these learning outcomes with the current higher education apprenticeship program that they are actually trying to do. So with this information, then we can start with this loop, defining the learning outcomes that have to be acquired to make happy and to be qualified at university level, but also to be useful and to learn a lot at the workplace when they are doing the apprenticeship period. And then there has to be a strategic learning strategy. It needs to include this learning outcomes and needs to be programmed in a way that it's actually appropriate. Then there is a kind of diary collecting data, what they've learned, how, when, how they are going to apply it, and all that. And this turns into a reporting that both the mentor at the university and the mentor in the company can look at it and see how the learning process is developing. And then there is a reflection period for the student, and if there is any learning outcome that has not been achieved, they start the loop again. If they have been achieved, then they can go to more learning outcomes and continue with the learning process. But to achieve this and to make the supervisors and the tutors aware of this process and why it's important, there is some basic needs for mentors and supervisors. On one side, the training needs, and on the other side, the tools that they need. So as for training needs, they need initial training to understand what they are doing, but also follow-up mentoring, exchange of situations and experiences with other mentors, and evaluation, self-evaluation to improve and to do better with the next students that they will supervise. In terms of tools, of course, they need a kind of manual to know what is to be a mentor and to be able to consult. Maybe they need to go back into the manual if there are gaps or if the situation is not standard. Maybe a website platform where they could exchange ideas and worries. The diaries are very important. We are not sure that every supervisor and mentor are using this tool. Forms to monitor learning, meetings face-to-face or virtually, group reflection sessions, etc., etc. So we are developing this kind of material for mentors. At the moment, what we have developed so far is the structure of the prototype course for mentors. It's got 7 sections or parts, or modules, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. There is an introduction about what is higher education apprenticeship mentoring. Module 1 is more about the learning process for the student. Module 2 is the planning of the learning strategy in the company context. The module 3 is about supporting learning process 4 is about using digital tools to support the learning process. 5 would be about advocacy, why you as mentor or supervisor want to be mentor or supervisor, and how to make the world know that you want to do it, what it makes this task important, relevant, and makes you feel you are doing something good for the students, because it's really mentoring and supervising apprenticeships is very rewarding if you do it well, because they are very happy and they are very grateful for the help they receive. And then a module about self-development as mentor or supervisor. These are the modules that will form part of this course that we are preparing now. And I think that this is the end of our presentation. You can you can write in the chat that you will see on the right. If you have any questions, immediate questions, you can write there. If you don't have any immediate questions, maybe you can digest the presentation and send us your questions to the apprent@eucen.eu email address, and we will be very happy to answer any questions or any comments that you have about our work. I think that people is typing, so we'll wait just in case it's a question. Thank you, Darja, for joining us in the presentation. I hope that all our slides have been clear. We will actually make this presentation available both as a video but also as a PDF. Thank you, Ana Cristina, and I hope yes, I hope it's been helpful for everybody. Yes, so it looks like maybe there is no questions at this moment. So I think that I only thank you for your participation, and we'll be in touch with you about where to find the resources. Thank you very much.